Blog Talk Radio.
People of the world, I am your host. Welcome to GD's A Touch of Grace. Today's date is Friday, May 29th, 2015, and the time is 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today's guest, Juaquin Hawkins, will be discussing his inspiring book, Stroke of Grace. It is a tale of trauma, triumph, and testimony. But before we get started, here's a little GD perspective. Sometimes it's hard to keep the faith in the midst of a storm, to believe that still waters will come until after the winds and waves have subsided. Be of great courage, for eventually peace shall be restored. Former NBA Long Beach State player Juaquin Hawkins, living a dream after stroke, is the headline caption from the Long Beach Press Telegram write-up written by Josh Dulaney. It is an inspirational caption inspired by a profound courage that today's guest invoked at a time when uncertainty and doubt could overshadow the possibility of ever being physically whole again. The traumatic jolt of a stroke takes lives and leaves lives shattered, causing fear, despair, and a feeling of hopelessness to countless victims who must face the agonizing road to recovery. Some return to normal lives, while others face the battle each day to walk, talk, and move their limbs controlled and freely. The horrific truth is that the aftermath of a stroke leaves some a prisoner in their own bodies. And as newly disabled human beings, it can be a devastating blow to serenity and self-confidence. Today's guest knows all too well what it feels like when the body betrays and disrupts the sanctity of mobility. It is a fight he courageously wins each day that separates him from that frightening morning when all his athleticism stood in question. Would he ever walk again? Would he ever talk again? Would he ever run or jump again? Would he return to the man he was before? And would life ever be close to the same? These are questions that will be answered on today's show as I welcome a warrior of profound courage to GD's A Touch of Grace. And now, Juaquin Hawkins. Hawk, welcome. What's good, man?
Oh, nothing much, man. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. It is an honor having you with us today. How's everything going?
Going pretty well. Like I said, it's a pleasure. I've been waiting and anticipating, speaking with you, and I just really want to thank you for allowing for me to, to speak with you today and also talk to your listeners and, in discussion of my story.
All right, that sounds great. So I've got some great questions here, and I always like to start in the beginning. Now, in the beginning, Juaquin Hawkins was born. Where was he born, and where did he grow up?
I was born in Linwood, California. It's like borderline Compton, California. I was born in the city of Watts, but about when I was one and a half years old, my grandmother, she was able to kind of get us out of that area, and we ended up moving to Linwood, which is about 30 minutes away from Watts. I'm originally from California. All
right. So you're a Cali man. So that's great.
Yes, I am.
So I do. Well, I am too. Well, actually, I was born in Gulfport, Mississippi, but I grew up here in the city, and I'm a city boy by heart. So when you were growing up in Southern California, what was life like for you growing up?
Uh, well, I gotta say it was a little difficult because I grew up without a father, and just growing up in Los, I mean, just growing up in general, not having a mom and a dad, I'm sure it can be challenging for everyone, but I didn't know anything other than my mom and my grandmother, and so I didn't really have a father figure, when I first, was born in my early years growing up, but my uncle became the father figure that I needed, and that helped me to actually become the man I am today.
Okay, that's incredible. And like I said, it takes a village to raise a family. Sometimes the village has to step in when, the desired circumstances aren't the way they are. So I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your inspiring gift. When did you realize that you were athletically gifted?
I probably would say about 5 or 6 years old. I used to go to my uncle's park basketball games to watch him play, him and his friends, and I was just so inspired by my uncle. I mean, I figured he was 6'5". At that time, he was about maybe 30 years old, but just athletic, and I just loved the way he played on the court, and I really wanted to be like him. In fact, I wanted to be better than him. And I remember time and time again, after a game was over with, this is a park and recreation basketball league that he was in, but I would always challenge him, after games. And so obviously he'll knock me around and tell me, oh, you'll never beat me. And so that was like my inspiration. And so every time I would see him play, I would pick up different moves that he would do, different moves that his teammates would do. And I said, you know what, I think I can do that. Even though I was only 5 or 6 years old, I figured that I can eventually, play at that level. And that became the things that I was inspired in throughout my lifetime.
That's incredible. So let's talk about it, because to get to the pinnacle, which is the NBA of professional bowling, what did the training schedule consist of that allowed you to reach the optimal performance level that would give you the key that would allow you to enter into the competitive limelight of the NBA? What was that like?
Well, I got to say it's different for everyone. But one thing I know that's consistent, I'm sure former NBA players and current NBA players can contest to, it's a steady grind. I mean, every day, hours and hours daily, you're trying to master a craft so that eventually when called upon that you'll be ready for that, for that opportunity. So, I mean, it just started with me, playing any and every time that I had a chance to. I mean, I didn't have a basketball court until I was about 13 years old in my backyard. So I would go to the local parks, go to my neighbors. My best friend lived right down the street from me, and when I lived in Linwood, I used to go to his house every single day, twice a day, just to be able to shoot some hoops. And so, with that, my uncle, going to my uncle's games, shooting and getting some good practice in with him, and him just teaching me the game, it became part of my lifestyle. And so I would say from ages 7 all the way till I got to high school, I mean, I would practice almost every single day, 2-3 hours a day. And as I got to college, going to the beach by myself, running in the beach, going to the gym myself, and again, just trying to mastering, the fundamentals of basketball, dribbling with your left hand, right hand, shooting with both hands, working on your speed, your conditioning. And so it became almost a job in itself for me to and the thing about that, I never got a chance to really master it, but what happened was that I was just very ready for the opportunity when I had a chance to try out in the NBA.
Okay, and let's talk about that moment. Okay, so you had the heart of a warrior. You were out on the beach, and you were constantly practicing. And so do you remember that moment, or what can you explain that moment to us, how you were notified that you made it to the NBA?
Well, it was a scenario that happened that let me know I had what it took to play in the NBA, but I didn't know. And as a matter of fact, it took years after that before I finally did make the NBA. I don't know how much time do we have, and that's pretty much one reason why I did write the book, so people can see, my journey to the NBA, because I was not drafted in the NBA. I wasn't a big time or a big name college basketball player, so I was an afterthought. After the NBA draft in '96, I had to decide if I wanted to continue to try to play professionally overseas or what have you. But I knew I had the desire, and I knew I had the heart, and I just had to make sure that I prepared myself. And so it actually was a pickup game at UCLA in 1996 in the summertime, a few months after the draft, and I was in a pickup game at UCLA, and Magic Johnson was there coordinating basketball games there, and it was nothing but NBA players there. And I remember going there a few times throughout the week, and I was never selected. As a matter of fact, they only wanted current NBA players to play in these pickup games. And I understood it, but at the same time, I'm like, I just wish someone would give me an opportunity and I can show that I do belong. And sure enough, a few days after not being able to play, one particular day I was there, one of the NBA players was hurt. And this happened in the middle of a game that they were playing, so they needed a replacement. And just so happened, my coach that was there training me, he knew Magic Johnson, and ended up talking with him very briefly. And next thing I knew that I was on the court. And so,
wow.
So long story short, I ended up playing well. And obviously, playing with NBA players is a dream come true for anyone. But at the fact that I was, playing against Magic Johnson, my idol, that became just something that I would never forget. And, just for him to give me that opportunity when he didn't even know me, it helped out with my confidence. And as I played well after that game, he spoke with me right after the game and invited me back, for the entire week. So I ended up playing not only that day, but the entire week, pickup basketball games with Magic Johnson and Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel and all these other current NBA players, and end up getting an invite to the Veterans Camp, with the Lakers Veterans Camp in '96, which of course '96 was Kobe's first year in the NBA. Shaquille O'Neal and Cedric Ceballos. So I got a chance to play with all those guys. It just started just one opportunity that Magic Johnson provided for me just in a pickup game.
Well, that's amazing. And so that's interesting that you said you were an afterthought, but what an incredible afterthought you were to actually have caught the attention of Magic Johnson, who I think is an incredible human being, just an incredible person, Definitely a phenomenal player, but definitely an incredible human being. So we watch from our televisions, or we sit in the stands watching all of this, brilliance on the court, going back and forth, making shots, dunking the ball. But being in the game, out there on that wooden floor, what did that experience feel like for you?
Well, of course, it felt like a dream. Obviously, in your dreams, you make everything happen, but at this time, I'm a part of something that's a reality, and I'm playing with the best players in the world. And so it just made me feel like all the hard work, the years of staying motivated, people saying I wasn't good enough, or me not having a good day on the basketball court, me coming back the very next day, still motivated. It just made everything worth it. And so, to that particular year, I didn't make the Lakers, but I did play 6 or 7 games with the Lakers, gained valuable experience, and then I went overseas to play for about a year, and then I came back the following year and tried out with the Clippers, and unfortunately, I didn't make that team either. And so it was still the constant motivation, encouraging myself, and I ended up going overseas for about 7 or 8 years, and at the ripe old age of 29, I still had belief in myself. I was able to get a tryout with the Houston Rockets, and I ended up making that team and even started the first 10 games of my NBA career. So it was more than a dream came true. It was my life, and I was very happy and satisfied with that.
Okay, so now the transition from trying to actually becoming, was that difficult for you to step into those big shoes that you now had to feel with the large responsibility and the fans? What was your approach to actually keep staying focused to do the job you're meant to do?
Well, it was just that. I mean, just staying focused. I learned a lot from my mom and grandmother, especially my grandmother. She was originally from Louisiana, so she used to pick cotton and, do all the difficult, challenging things just to have a way of life. And, she never complained about her obstacles. She just did what was needed to be done for her and her family. And I just took the same approach. I just said, if I make the NBA, at least I can say that I tried. And in trying, I just wanted to make sure myself that I prepared myself well enough so that when any opportunity did present itself, it would be no excuses. And I would just take it for what it is, for an opportunity. If I make it, it'll be great. But if I didn't make it, then same thing. It'll be great for me because at least I can say I put my sweat and my just my effort into making that dream come true. And it was just nothing. I can't even explain in words how it felt for me to finally make the NBA. I was the second oldest rookie in 2002, 2003. And as I said, I even had a chance to start the first 10 games, which made it even more exciting and more special.
All right. And so let's talk about fame, because that is fame. Were there any instances when you kind of thought that, wow, is this overwhelming, or was it always just so self-assured for you?
Well, no, it was always overwhelming for me because this is a lifestyle that obviously only people can dream of. And I was one of those dreamers. I was one of those dreamers, always knew other NBA players. I was good friends with Cedric Ceballos, who was a long-term Laker, and he was always, my self-motivator and would always tell me that I can make it. I got to keep trying. And so just to hear those words from current NBA players and to actually make it, it was reassuring, but it was just something, again, I can't even explain in words, but it was overwhelming. It was definitely overwhelming because, again, this is something that doesn't happen to a lot of people. And, for me to be blessed with the talent enough and to be able to be prepared for the opportunity, it was just seemed like it was just something that God already had and planned for me.
Amen. So let's talk about, so life in front of the camera is one thing. How about life off the camera, in between games? What was that life like for you? Was it always practice, or did you have downtime to do other things? What was that life like while in that fast-paced life?
It was pretty much like a circus. And when I say circus in a good way, because you have so many opportunities come your way. Like I was a very shy kid growing up. I hated talking. That was one thing. I only would talk when someone would ask me a question. But once you get that you become that NBA player, your time becomes even more wanted. And so I was getting calls for speaking engagements. Just to do basketball camps for kids, and so it helped me grow as an individual. But it became where almost every day of the day it was time consuming because I always had to make sure I was prepared for practice. Obviously being an NBA player, but at the same time you had to try to find time for your family and just some time for yourself. And it's really not too much time for yourself because you're always doing something for the team or what have you.
Right. And so did there ever come a time when you just wanted to just like go on an island somewhere and just take a five? Were there ever moments like that for you?
Not really, because for me, for so many years, I dreamed of this moment. And so I didn't want to take it for granted, and I really just wanted to endure all the experiences. So, probably the only thing I do wish is I stayed longer. I wish I stayed longer, but, it is a business aspect to it as well, and I understood that my first year. And, just overall, I was just in a place where, I was very, very happy with my lifestyle, and, I had some great supporters around me, and it just made it even more worthwhile for me.
Wow, incredible. So what do you think the public's biggest misconception is about being a professional baller?
Well, I think people they say that NBA players are spoiled, and I wouldn't say spoiled. I mean, they take advantage of their opportunities, and I don't think
Right.
that's being special. That's they all those guys. I mean, in the NBA currently, former. I mean, it's again, it's so hard, and I don't have the statistics, but it's just so many people that try it year in, year out that don't make it, and you
Right.
have maybe about 400 players in the NBA. I might be off a little bit, but there's just only a certain amount of players that have the opportunity and that have the skill level, that have the maturity to be on that level. And so I just think they all are deserving for what comes to them, financially as well as fame. So I think the biggest misconception could be that NBA players are spoiled. I mean, they work their butts off to get to where they are. So it's only right for them to enjoy themselves.
Right, right. And so, did you enjoy that fame? Did you really enjoy it when you were in it, outside of just the ability to be able to do what you've always dreamed of doing, and you work so hard at doing? Did you enjoy the fame?
Yes, for sure. And I never, even now, I don't consider myself or didn't consider myself to be famous. I was just a guy from Linwood, California that had a dream and, just took advantage of the opportunity when it came, in front of me. And so I've never considered myself to be famous, but at the same time, I understood what that meant to be an NBA player. And, I think fame comes only to those who work hard. And a lot of people do work hard, but again, just the word famous or me feeling that I was famous at that time, it's not something that I took for granted, but at the same time, it's not something I really considered myself to be.
I see. And what do you think is the biggest pressure for a professional in sports?
Oh, well, I mean, we see, unfortunately, during these times, a lot of professional athletes, they get caught up doing things or being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I mean, it comes with the territory. And I mean, I think just being more aware of your surroundings, the people you associate yourself with. I mean, those are just different things that you learn growing up anyway. But when you have the famous stigma behind your name, I mean, you just have to be even more careful. And that's why I was very fortunate enough. I was engaged the year before I made the NBA, before I even had an opportunity to play or try out with the Rockets. I was already engaged, so I already knew who my life partner would be. And my wife was very, very much instrumental in me becoming an NBA player. But really just maintaining the composure needed to accept any type of fame that came my way. So I think that's just the most important thing is for people at that level to be aware of their surroundings and, just got to really take care of your business because now, all eyes are on you.
Right, you're exactly right. And I really enjoyed how you said that you found your soulmate, How difficult was it to maneuver through the groupies and the women that probably threw themselves at you? How difficult was that for you to abstain?
Well, I got to say, of course, I'm a man. I love women, but at the same time, it wasn't hard for me because again, I've already found someone that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And so when that opportunity did present itself, I just kindly basically left the area or made sure that I was not subject to those temptations. And having the belief in God, the belief that I had at that time, and the strengthening of my faith, made it even more easier for me. So it wasn't a problem for me at all.
Oh, man, I got to tell you, I love this season of A Touch of Grace because everybody that has been on this show has talked about God and spirituality being that core, for them. And I know and I believe with all my heart that there's a lot to that. So I want to put my horns up a little bit. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of basketball. I mean, I was hanging around with a bunch of old guys at one point in time, in the wrong place at the wrong time. But they taught me a lot about professional sports. And I believe that most players have at one player that each time they play one another, they lock competitive horns. Did you have that one opponent that you always look forward to going up against? And if so, who was that?
Well, in the NBA, there are a lot of professional players that I looked up to before I made the NBA, and I was just fortunate enough to play with some of the people that I idolized. And Kobe Bryant was one of them. Obviously, in '96, I tried out my first experience trying out for an NBA team. I just so happened to be on Kobe's team, and Kobe was 18 years old at that time, fresh out of high school. So I got a chance to see just the beginning points of him becoming a great player. And so when I finally did make the NBA years later, I always look forward to play against him. Obviously, Vince Carter during that time was a very high-profile player. I loved playing against him, Tracy McGrady, Paul Pierce. And, I got to say I was very – because Paul Pierce is also from the Los Angeles area. And I saw him play in high school and always read about him, but I never got a chance to play against him in high school. And, he was deceiving, I should say, very deceiving in the way that he played. And he was by far one of the best players that I played against while I was in the NBA.
Right. Well, I know it's an incredible time here in the Bay Area because the Warriors and Steve Curry, they have it's just amazing, where they came from and where they are now. What are your thoughts about the NBA looking back when you were there and what it is now? Do you see any big difference in the game, or is it pretty much still the same?
There is some difference. I think these days, there is better athletes. I think the athletes around these days, they're faster, they're stronger. They have maybe a little bit more maybe basketball knowledge as far as how to play the game. But I still think back when I was playing, even years before that, I think people studied the game more during that era. But I think overall the NBA has become a lot better, a lot faster, more exciting. I guess you can say that. So there is a lot of similarities, but there are also a lot of differences, and that's what makes the NBA the NBA. It's a unique league that have the best players in the world, and you can't ask for anything more.
All right. Well, very well said. So how long did you play in the NBA, Hawk?
Well, as far as my contracts, I played the 1 year with the Rockets. So I had a full year with the Rockets. I played the 7 games with the Lakers, the Clippers, Milwaukee Bucks, also the Golden State Warriors. Got a chance to play with them briefly. But the majority of my time was spent overseas. I played 12 years overseas in different countries. So, me being an NBA player, that was obviously the highlight of my career. But also playing in the minor leagues, the CBA. I guess you can say I paid my dues because I played in every league imaginable so that I can continue to learn more about the game and be prepared for that opportunity when it did present itself. So I was very lucky and I got to say I am very blessed to be able to say that I played in the NBA as well as in the ABA, IBL, CBA, and pretty much played with a lot of great players in the game of basketball.
Wow, just incredible. What an incredible life. What do you miss most about playing in the NBA?
Well, of course, I miss the money. Miss the money.
Oh, amen.
I'll be crazy to say that I don't, I'm okay financially. Of course, all the NBA players, it's a great way to live. And really, and not jokingly, I was doing something that I love. So for me to get paid a good amount of money to do something I love, it's the pinnacle of anyone's life. You always want to do something that you love, and to get financially compensated for it, it was just very rewarding for me. So obviously I do miss the financials with it, but at the same time, I love the competitive nature of the players, and every night, every day, becoming a better player, becoming a better person, and just always striving to be the best that I could be. So I do miss that, and I still have those qualities in my life now, just in a different way. And obviously I'm a stroke survivor, so all my energies and the things I would like to do in the future are surrounded around that now. But I just miss the whole opportunity of being an NBA player.
Wow, wow. Okay, well, let's get deep. You talked about the stroke. Now, New Year's Day, 2008, at 9:15 a.m. Can you speak on this day and what went through your mind as you felt your body betraying you?
Well, before I even felt my body betraying me, I mean, I was just preparing like I normally do I just woke up. We just had a game the night before. So we had a game on the road in Melbourne, Australia. And my wife and my 3 daughters just arrived to Australia just a couple of days ago, before that. And I hadn't seen them for 5 months. And so it was Christmas Day when they arrived. And at this time it was New Year's Day. And we just had a game, as I said, the night before, and just preparing for a game. You know, we had a flight, 2-hour flight, and just waking up, and reliving our game the night before, and thinking about my family, and just going to the bathroom to brush my teeth. And as I picked up my toothbrush, I felt a tingly feeling in my right fingertips. And I thought it was a little odd, but I know once upon a time, I slept on my arm wrong, so I felt that tingling feeling before, but eventually, of course, it went away. But this time, it seemed like it was progressing, and it progressed from my fingertips to my palm to my forearm, and then all of a sudden, I had this headache that I've never experienced before. It felt like someone was hitting me in the head with a bat or something, and so I felt like something was wrong, but I didn't know it. So I just really figured that I was tired, still tired, and so I went to go proceed to lay down on the bed, and as I got closer to the bed, my vision became blurry, and I started to stumble towards the bed. And so, again, not aware of what's happening to me, I knew my roommate went downstairs with the rest of my teammates for breakfast. And they were waiting for me to come down for breakfast, and all of a sudden I'm having these issues with my body. And so if you can kind of picture yourself on your back, laying on your back, with your right arm holding up, your left hand holding up your right arm out in front of you, and I kept doing that motion, trying to get some feeling back in my arm. And every time I would release my right hand and arm with my left hand, my hand would come crashing down on my face. And I knew something was terribly wrong because I had no feeling on my right arm at all. And so I had a quick thought of a stroke. And I remember being a little boy watching a commercial, and it says how, your face droops, you have, limited feeling on one side of your body. And I thought about that, but I was like, okay, this can't be happening to me because, I'm a 34-year-old professional athlete, never been sick other than having an ankle sprain. So this stroke is something that I can't associate myself with. So with that in mind, I remember going to the mirror to stand up to see if my face was disfigured. And as I looked at the mirror and I smiled, I can tell that my right side of my face, it was drooping, and my eye was drooping. So I figured something was very terribly wrong, and just not wanting to look at that anymore. I remember turning my head and, again, feeling very drowsy, laid back on the bed. And at this time, I'm terrified because I just saw something in the mirror that it didn't look familiar to me. My right arm is still, I have no feeling there. And I said, okay, I can't be having a stroke. I just kept saying to myself, I cannot be having a stroke. And so as I stood back up to go look in the mirror again, the whole right side of my body became numb, like paralyzed. And I came crashing down on the floor. So now I'm on the floor and I have no way to get my balance. I can't feel anything on my entire right side. And I just remember perspirating and just nervous and just praying. I mean, that's all I could do, just pray that this was just something that was just going to go away. And unfortunately, it was something that didn't just go away. I mean, it was about a 10-minute period that went by before I was able to gather myself enough to try to get to the door to try to get some help. So it was by far the worst experience that I've ever felt. And, I just didn't know what was going to happen next.
Wow. I have to tell you, there was a friend of mine that I used to hang out with, and I left to the store. And I got a call that he was on the floor, and when I walked in, he was like in the fetal position. And thank God that the woman he lived with was there, because she heard him when he fell. He fell just like a brick. And when I got there, I don't know if I understood exactly, and hearing your recount of it, it's almost like you're not putting two and two together. You've seen the commercials. It's almost like you're in denial about really what's happening. So I had to call the paramedics, and they came, and by the time we got to the hospital, this cat they had put him in like some type of deep state of sleep. And he had to go through a lot of things to actually recover. I think they drilled in his head to get the blood out. So what type of stroke did you finally realize, or were you finally told that you had?
Well, they said it was an ischemic stroke, which means I had bleeding in the brain. And the unfortunate thing is you're supposed to get help or call 911 immediately, and you really have about 3 hours
Hey, Joaquin, I think we're losing you. Are you there?
Hello?
Okay, there you are. Okay, so let's try that again. All right, so it was a ischemic stroke, a bleeding of the brain, and then what happened afterwards? Yeah, well, you normally have about 3 hours to get to the hospital so that you won't have any long-term effects from the stroke. And unfortunately, it took me about a day and a half, and it was only because they didn't recognize the warning signs of a stroke. And so, I mean, not only I didn't get to the hospital in time or in a reasonable amount of time, but I wouldn't say forced, but I was told to board the flight to get on our team flights, what we had to Melbourne, Australia, which is a 2-hour flight. So after having this experience, I took a flight for 2.5 hours. When I finally got to Melbourne, which is about 7 hours after that, I went to the hospital, tried to go to 3 different hospitals, and it wasn't until the 3rd hospital that they diagnosed me as, actually misdiagnosed me for dehydration. And so, of course, thinking back, after the fact, it was frustrating because, I mean, I didn't know about taking any blood work to see if anything was working or wrong. I didn't know anything about taking a CT scan to see if anything was, not right with my brain. And it wasn't until the very next day after I had the stroke that I was having more effects where I couldn't hear at all in my right ear. And I finally, after stuttering and just all these other things that happens to your body when you have a stroke, I was still having those symptoms. And I asked to go back to the hospital. And it wasn't until the very next day. Total of 24 hours, as I mentioned in my book. I talk about all this in my book, but it was really 24 hours before I got the proper medical help. And when they finally diagnosed me, after taking a CT scan, they saw that I had bleeding in the brain, and told me that I had a stroke. And unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to play not only that night, but they didn't think I would be able to play basketball again. Oh my God! So that news for someone who loves basketball had to have been pretty devastating. But I want to go back in time. Okay, so you had this thing going on in the room, and you actually got on a plane. So I'm just trying to envision this. Were you still able to walk at this point?
Yeah. After the stroke, the original stroke, and me losing my balance and not be able to feel my right side at all, as I said, it was about a 10-minute period that went by, and I just remember having the same determination. And this is one thing I got to be thankful for, being a professional athlete. I was always determined to be the best that I could be. But at this time, I couldn't move, and I just remember looking at the door where I was laying on the ground after having the symptoms of the stroke, and hearing voices on the outside of the door. And that became my new motivation, just to get to where those voices were, try to get to the opposite side of the door of the hotel room so that I can get some help. And I just remember, and vividly and specifically talk about that in the book, how I end up, grabbing the sheets from the bed to pull myself up, grabbing the chair, limping over to the door. And it was only 6 or 7 steps that I had to, to get to the door. And it seemed like it was the longest 6 or 7 steps in my life just to try to get some help. And so as I'm dragging myself to the door, I opened up the door, and then it was like no one there at all.
Wow.
And so, again, it felt like it was a dream. It felt like, another dream that I was having, a nightmare, as you can say. And, finally my roommate came back to the room a few minutes later after I got myself back over to the bed, and told him to go get some help because I felt like I needed some emergency help right now at that point. And it was just an unfortunate situation, and I was told that my symptoms looked like it was progressing, and my massage therapist of our team, just from the instructions of our coach, thought that he can get me to the hospital, but because it was the last flight of the day, that it was mandatory for me to get on this flight so that we won't miss our flight. So it was a lot of small things.
I have to tell you right now, as when you said that. So here you are. There had to have been some type of reaction to the people that you were around that would still try to push you to get on a flight when you were going through this. I mean, I think that is just, it's amazing that you're even still alive, Hawk. I just have to tell you, that is just crazy. And then hours later, they actually find out what was going on. So how long did you have to stay in the hospital? Do you remember what type of procedures they performed to actually get you back to close to normal as possible?
Yeah, well, I was in the hospital 6 to 7 days after the initial diagnosis, and it was a lot. I mean, just for me it got so bad my first day in the hospital, I forgot my alphabet. I could not say or pronounce the letters of the alphabet. I mean, I kept getting to the letter F, and I didn't know what came after F. It also was difficult for me to do the simple things. I mean, just reading a sentence in a paragraph. For me to, do math. I mean, basic math. The whole week that I was in the hospital, I mean, they had me doing things, trying to know the difference between a circle and triangle. Also, they have these, I just call them little pins, and they're little pins, needles, where they stick in certain parts of your arm and your leg to see if you have filling in those areas. And I remember constantly, day in and day out, them coming in, sticking me with these needles because, I mean, my filling on my right side, I mean, at times it was there, I can feel it, but other times it wasn't. And so, I mean, they had to really, make sure that I was okay and that I wouldn't have another stroke because the bleeding in the brain, obviously, the brain affects everything. I mean, from your talking to your walking. And so they wanted to make sure that I was capable enough to resume my life. But, they did tell me that I would never have the type of life that I did have.
Oh, wow. That's just got to be so very devastating. Now, I know that the cat that I was talking about, behind that was actually substance abuse. It was the white stuff, if you know what I mean. So I know that is something that triggered his. But here you are, a professional athlete. Was there ever a determination as to how it came about or what brought it about?
No, not at all. The only thing they can possibly, and they said possibly contributed into was a blood disorder that just had my blood a little bit too thick. And obviously, everyone's blood is different, but you have to have a constant blood flow going through your body in order for everything to work. And so they said it's only a possibility. I mean, it was low levels of this blood disorder, but they really could not contribute it to anything of why I would have a stroke at 34 years old being a professional athlete. And that was one reason why I wanted to write the book, because I don't want people to be aware or think that strokes only happen to older people, because I was that person. Before I had a stroke, I thought that only people over 60 had strokes or late 50s. So I became a voice just for stroke and stroke awareness. And I didn't know it at that time, but it's become a blessing in disguise because I've been able to educate people over the course of several years, youth and adults, more about stroke and the preventions of it.
God, I'm sitting here with chill bumps. that you would face such a cunning flow, that had the potential to actually take you out, and especially not knowing where it came from, but then having the courage to just go ahead and start living. In this inspiring book called Stroke of Grace, and it's ironic that my show is called A Touch of Grace. I remember when World Media presented me with the opportunity of having this interview with you, I did a search to find, I just wrote basketball player stroke, and up popped Juaquin Hawkins. And so, of course, I have to have him on the show, because I think, especially in the African-American community, the more we discuss these types of things, the more when things like this happen, people will understand what's going on, because I think the silence is the killer,
Yes.
And so let's talk about this wonderful, incredible book that I actually have to own. When did you write it? How long after the stroke? And how long did it take you to write it?
Well, I got to tell you, it's still surprising to me that I wrote a book, because I never thought about becoming a writer. I love to read stories. I love to read about inspirational stories, but I never thought that I actually would become an inspirational story. So just writing actually became part of my therapy, because there's a lot of things that I couldn't remember, but it was definitely a lot of things I never wanted not to remember. And my daughters, I had 3 daughters at that time. They were 5, 3, and 1 when I had a stroke. And I remember the day that I couldn't say my alphabet. And immediately I started to say my girls' names. And it was difficult at times where I couldn't remember my 3rd daughter's name. And I said, you know what? I can forget everything in the world, but I'm going to make sure that I'm always going to remember my daughter's name. And I remember being in the hospital in Australia, in the hospital bed, trying to say my alphabet, and immediately I couldn't do it. So I started to just repeat my girl's name and look at their pictures on my phone. And then I just started to say, you know what, other things that I know I experienced, if I end up having another stroke, I never want to forget. Obviously, my grandmother, all the lessons I learned from her, and my uncle and my mom, my journey to get to the NBA. I mean, I thought all those would be beneficial things for my daughters to know and to be encouraged by. And so the week after I left the hospital, I just began to jot those things down so that I would not and never forget those things. And so 1 week of writing turned into a month of writing in about 5 or 6 pages. And to 3 months after that, I had 30 pages. A year and a half after that, I had 120 pages. And I kept writing until I had almost 500 pages after 5 years. And so my wife kept always seeing me write, and as my symptoms obviously my symptoms decreased, my wife started to say, you know what, this is something that you maybe can, be a motivational speaker, or even write a book, and maybe people can learn from your experiences. And I said, you know what, you're right. And with my wife's help, and she helped me with the title, The Stroke of Grace. The Stroke of Grace was born, and it took me 5 years of writing, and was able to get it self-published just less than a year ago.
Wow. Well, I have to tell you right now, there are a couple of things that I grabbed out of what you just said, and I'm just so touched. The power outside of God was love. Yeah, that's what got you through. I can't forget everything, but not my daughter's name. That was love. Yeah. That's the true power that was. So, what is your biggest hope for Stroke of Grace?
Well, my biggest hope is to encourage current stroke survivors, and also to educate people that have no knowledge about what happens when you have a stroke. Also, obviously, throughout the book, I talk about, there were many instances where I almost gave up on life. Even more unfortunate, there's a big rate of just professional players, after they're not playing professional ball, they're giving up on themselves. And, it was one point where, and talking more about my book, there was an instance in my book where I even talk about, jumping off of a balcony and just ending all of my misery. But at the same time, during that moment of just thinking about it, I remember hearing my girls call me, Daddy, where are you? And so I realized it wasn't about me anymore. It was more about what I can do for my daughters and what I can do for others. So it just became something that I knew that I can help inspire other people when they're going through their difficult times. And, it's just been overall something that, it became because of the grace of God. And I think it was just very imperative and important for me to write and to, let everyone into my life, good, bad, and the ugly, so that they can be more encouraged about their own life and livelihood.
Wow. Well, one thing that I can say, and one thing that I feel as I talk to you, and I was really excited. It's the first time I ever talked to a professional baller ever.
Right.
And I just feel the love of God that's just flowing through you. I believe that has to be your mightiest sword. But then there was something that I also read in that telegram that I opened the show up with a little bit. She touched her hand and spoke words of life before she died. Can you tell us about Grandma Tweet?
Oh, what can I say about Grandma Tweet? I mean, she was my light. She was and is my inspiration. And before the day that she passed away, and again, at 16 years old, I had a lot of friends that passed away, but I had never seen anyone, to become deceased right in front of me. And I mean, this is my flesh. This is my grandmother. This has been the person that has been there from me from day one. And to see her pass away in my arms, it hurt me so bad, but in tune, it motivated me about life because she sacrificed everything, even the last breath that she had in her body to say something encouraging to me. And that became my way of living. And I said, if my grandmother can do this for me, I can do this for my daughters and everyone else that I think that would need this type of encouragement. So, I mean, Grandma Tweet was just my life, and she still is my life, even though she's not here with me on earth.
Beautiful. She sounds like a beautiful woman, and I think about that. I think it's a passage from the Bible that they said in church all the time. If my living has touched someone, then my life would not have been lived in vain, and that is definitely what I'm inspired by when I'm listening to you about your Grandma Tweet. Amazing. So I know that you were raised by two amazing women, Grandma Tweet being one, and then Gwen, your mom, being the other. Yeah. What did you learn from the both of these amazing women about, or what helped you become a man?
Well, for one, just being humble for what you do have. You don't have to be rich to feel like you're rich, and I think that they enrich me with love, with caring, and doing things the right way. And I definitely learned that from my mom and grandmother, particularly those two, because as a young adolescent, you don't know those things, and you're doing all the things that you're not supposed to be doing. And I mean, I gotta say, I used to have that belt. Get that belt ready for me when I wasn't doing. So I learned how to just to really do what was needed to be a successful person, and I just thank them. I mean, every day, even when I talk to my mom now, sometimes I tell her just thank you. She's like, why are you thanking me? I said, well, you have instilled in me, just doing things the right way. Now I can instill those same things into my daughters and my youth program that I have. So, they just overall made me appreciate life and made me a lot humble for all the things that I did have, and even the things when I didn't have anything, they still made me very gracious to be, the person that I was.
Well, I think that they're amazing. I think when it calls to mind the Maya Angelou poem, Phenomenal Woman, and they definitely are two phenomenal women. So, Grandma Tweet, we'll feel you here this evening, I have to tell you. So let's talk about Stroke of Grace. Where can it be purchased?
Okay, we can go. Actually, I'm doing something this month. This is a Stroke Awareness Month. A Stroke of May is American Stroke Month. So on my website, strokeofgrace.org, you can purchase the book there. And what I'm doing is I'm personally autographing the books and sending them out. Everyone that purchased a book there. So you can go to www.strokeofgrace.org to purchase a book. We also have some really nice T-shirts there too. So you can purchase the book there as well. I will personally sign the book And then obviously you can go to Amazon to purchase the books as well.
All right, sounds great, and I'll definitely post that on all of my websites. So a couple of final questions. What has changed in your life that has made everything you've gone through worthwhile?
Well, the fact that I'm here. I mean, I'm still here. I've had a stroke, and a lot of people don't come back from strokes, physically or even mentally. And I'm here in spirit. I'm here physically, and I'm even more encouraged and motivated to do more things associated with stroke. Also, I'm not a professional basketball player anymore, but I'm able to utilize all the experience and the knowledge that I did receive playing for the Lakers, the Houston Rockets, Golden State Warriors. I mean, all these years I played, now I can mentor other young ballers, males and females, basketball players, and I end up having my own program now. Hawk Hoops is the name of my youth basketball program. I'm also a part of another program called the Open Gym Premier, which have about 300 kids, where we take every other weekend, play in basketball games, and I teach them throughout the week as well. So just overall, all my experiences has made me be able to touch and talk to more youth and adults about my experiences to encourage them in their own life. So I must say I'm blessed to have those experiences, the good and the bad, because again, life is not perfect for anyone, and I can be a living example of how you can overcome.
Most definitely, and I mean, God, words of wisdom to live by. Anyone out there listening, if you haven't been inspired by this discussion I've had with Juaquin Hawkins today, then go back and listen to it again, because you're missing something. And so what final thoughts would you like to share with listeners today, Juaquin?
Well, just the fact that everyone needs to understand, I mean, life is a precious gift to all of us that God has presented to all of us. And we have to, appreciate it, be humble, and also adapt to every situation. And that was the most important thing I wanted people to take from after reading my book, is that, you can adapt to almost everything. And, things never going to happen the way you want it to, but it'll happen when it needs to. And so, just always staying encouraged and always be thankful for others around us, because, we never can live life, by ourselves or feel like we can accomplish everything by ourselves. But just to be thankful and it please be inspiration for the next person, because at one point or another in our lives, we always need at least a helping hand. And, it's nothing like getting that helping hand, because now you're encouraged, you're motivated to be a helping hand for someone else.
All right. I think you're an incredible human being. For those who have listened today and who will be going back listening to the recorded broadcast that will be available shortly, www.strokeofgrace.org. Go out and purchase this book, read up on it, so that you'll know what to do if that time comes. So, Mr. Hawk, it has been an honor to have you here on A Touch of Grace, and I want to say that you're welcome back here anytime. And I just want to say thank you, my brother, for sharing this space and time with me today.
No problem. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the fact that you're giving me this opportunity. You guys take care, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
All right, Juaquin. You take care. Have
all
a wonderful evening, all right?
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you right now, Season 6 has just been incredible. I don't know. Every guest that has been on this show has just been so inspiring, and I've gone back and listened to each of these recorded broadcasts, as I will this one, just an amazing human being. His Hawk, Juaquin Hawkins, stroke of grace indeed. All right, so some of the upcoming shows on Friday, June 5th, 2015 at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Singer, songwriter, musician, the lovely Mary Edwards joins me from the Big Apple to discuss life, music, and the upcoming release of her new CD. She's been on the show a couple of times before and asked to be on it again And I have to tell you right now, that is what keeps me humbled and inspired. This show doesn't belong to me. It belongs to all the wonderful guests that come on. So it's going to be a wonderful time having her back aboard on the show. And as I drift deeper off into season 6 of GD's A Touch of Grace, more phenomenal talent will join me here. So watch for the promotional post as I announce the dates and times of the new shows. This new season's lineup is just getting better and better and better. Now, I have to say this. There are a lot of people that are asking to be on the show, and I don't have the luxury of doing the shows every day like I did last year, but I'm going to try to work out a date. Just bear with me, and shoot me those bios at authorgdgrace@gmail.com. All right, special thanks go out to my friends at World Media for being of great support to the show. They're the reasons why the phenomenal Juaquin Hawkins was with me today. And I just want to say thank you so much for being incredible friends and a support to the show. Special shout-out to my friend and colleague, Louis Randy Rand Wilkerson, the inspiring man behind Coffee with God by Randy Rand. And I have to tell you about this brother. We became friends on Facebook. People can say what they want about Facebook, but I just love it. I think it gives us time to encourage one another and share our life's joys, our families, and experiences that we've gone through. Congratulations to all the graduates out there. I just have to tell you, he has just been an incredible human being in my life. Last year, when I didn't really have the means to actually put this show together, he put his money where his mouth is, and I'll just be forever grateful. He showed me what true friendship was like. So many people have shown me what true friendship is like. And now, some final words of wisdom. Whenever we breathe, inhaling the richness of a new, better life, allow the lungs to take in the freshest of it willingly. And let the soul remember how it used to be. And right now, it is amazing. Thank you for tuning in today. Have a beautiful afternoon. Love you.